Hey folks, it's me again with the second episode of Big Easy TV's A Brief History of Whiskey. Now, there were a few comments from last week's episode saying I need to look at the camera a bit more. I'll try. Get ready for some more cutaways and hilarious mistakes. Also, try and make this whole thing a little bit less stuffy. Alright, in this episode, we'll run through a quick bit of history of Scottish whiskey and bring you up to speed with what's happening now, including, of course, a few whiskey reviews. Okay, so history, success in the regions of Scotland. So, whiskey making in all likelihood came over with the priests from Ireland sometime in the 12th century. Skip forward to 1495 and we have the first ever recorded sale of whiskey in Scotland. A few decades later they tried to start taxing the stuff. So building a distillery next to a good water source is a good idea. Also building it where the exciseman can't find it is a good idea. Hence the Scottish Highlands were the perfect place. It took until around 1824 before the majority of illicit distilling was stamped out. At this time a few distilleries went legit. Glenlivet, Glenmorangie, Balblair, Bowmore and Strathila, all of which are still pumping out good juice today. Then came the invention of the coffee still, another Irish invention, a method of continuous production which created an opportunity to produce whiskey on a massive scale. Over the next century and a bit, many brands emerged that made blended grain and malt from many distilleries to create a consistent, palatable product known as blended Scotch, and it still accounts for the majority of the Scottish whiskey market. It wasn't really then until the 1960s when some marketing geniuses started to introduce single malt whiskies to the market. My father professes that he didn't know Glenmorangie wasn't clear and didn't come in old lemonade bottles until the age of 19, and we can only assume he'd had a couple by that age. Those single malts may have been sold in local bars, but never in the marketplace. They're commissioned mainly by blenders. For those that don't know, a single malt in Scotland must be made from 100% malted barley and produced at one distillery. Anyway, I think it's time for a dram after all that dry chat. So my hometown is Tain in the northeast Highlands of Scotland, and also home to one of Scotland's most famous exports, Glenmorangie. Glenmorangie uses unusually a hard water source from a volcanic spring and the tallest stills, both of which serve to create its uniquely elegant new make spirit. And today I'm going to be trying the 18-year-old. Now this fella has spent 15 years in American oak ex-bourbon casks, and 30% of it's then transferred into European oak casks, which are ex-Oloroso, for 3 years. Then it's vatted back together and bottled at about 43% ABV. So let's get a little in the glass here and get it up around the beak. Now, yep, citrus right up front with quite strong cinnamon and stewed fruit, and suspicion of just a little peated malt in there as well. Getting a lot of stone fruit there with a little passion fruit, honey, peaches and cream. Followed by that very familiar Werther's Original creamy butterscotch. And it sort of zings off the palate with a little more citric acidity. Fantastic whiskey. So next we're going to talk about Speyside. So while Speyside is technically in the Highlands, there are so many distilleries surrounding the River Spey and its tributaries that it's acquired its own regional status. They don't really use peat in Speyside. Most whiskies are produced, the style is like fruity, sweet and nutty, featuring notes of apple, honey, vanilla and a bit of spice. Pretty perfect example of this would be the Balvenie 16-year-old triple cask. So let's get a little splash of that in the glass. I should probably mention that Balvenie was among one of the first distilleries to apply cask finishes to their products, and this little guy has seen first fill ex-bourbon, refill ex-bourbon, and refill ex-Oloroso. So American and European oaks as well. Up to the nose, just rich vanilla straight away, and that's all from that first fill American cask. Super prominent. A little bit of that famous Balvenie honey and a little hint of banana as well. Onto the palate. What an amazing mouthfeel. Just creamy but not too oily. and a massive hit of vanilla toffee. There's honey, dried fruit, and then the tannins really start to bite, and as they ease off it's just honey and rich vanilla custard along with that amazing texture. Okay, which brings us on to the lowlands. Now the lowlands is a bit of a funny one. There's two big cities, Glasgow and Edinburgh, that are in that region. Both had massive influxes of Irish workers during the Industrial Revolution, and therefore the market in the lowlands got kind of geared towards producing blended grain whiskies, more like the Irish style. That being said, a few producers of single malt hung around, and the one we've got here today is a beautiful 1980s bottling of Auchentoshan 3-wood. Quite similar to the current release, it's just a little bit richer, a little bit more sherried. Even just getting our eyes on this one, we can see it's very dark. Now, American oak, ex-bourbon, European, ex-Oloroso, and European ex-Pedro. So it's that PX cask that's really giving us that rich, dark colour up to the nose. And it's just baked fruit straight away. Maybe even a little bit of pie crust. But yeah, that sherry mustiness is really there. A bit of malty toffee. And obviously fruitcake too. Now on the palate straight away we've got like maraschino cherry and dark chocolate, ripe dark fruits, maybe mulberry, and yeah, just turning into a really fruity, rich chocolate cake. Superb finish and treacle and toffee with some spicy tannin there as well, ending strangely enough with a little bit of green apple coming out of nowhere. It's a bargain of a whiskey for a whiskey with such complexity to it. Okay, and that brings us to time for a comparison to Australian single malt. And this week it's got to be Iniquity, and this is batch 17. It's made right here in SA at Tin Shed Distilling by our good friend Ian Schmidt. This one, the 17, is a collab which was actually made with Cody and the lads from Haynes. So it's seen American oak, French oak, port casks, sherry casks, and wine casks, and the boys have done a great job. Let's just make a little space and get it up to the nose. It is honey straight away, butter menthol, a little ripe red fruit, maybe just a hint of furniture polish there too. It's quite fruity up front, straight away on the palate, following on with golden syrup and red wine. The mouth feels very pleasant, just the right viscosity for a 46 ABV. Finishing gently with more strong vanilla and chocolate. And a little bit of honeycomb as well, definitely, which is kind of a regular note from Ian's whiskies. The reason for choosing Iniquity in particular, its closeness in style to especially the Speyside style whiskies. That honey and chocolate really stand up well, carried by those red wine cask notes, which are rapidly becoming something that is an Australian style. Well done indeed. Cheers, Ian. Now, that takes us to the question of the week from last week's episode, and the winner is Johnny American Horace. He's actually a fantastic local musician and a bit of a regular here at NOLA. He's asked, how many takes, i.e. extra pours, went into the making of the episode? And the answer is none. We're obviously professionals, and all our videos are one single take. But Johnny, we'll be in touch. You're the winner of a $20 voucher, redeemable when NOLA reopens. So guys, this week I'll ask you again to jump on and leave questions for your chance to be next week's winner. Now over to Tom Hector with the weather.
Weather here with Tommy Hackers, and honestly, it's a bit sad today, guys. Stay indoors.
Thanks, Tommy. We love you. Okay, folks, that's pretty much all we had planned for today. Please do join us again next week for the Whiskies of Scotland Part 2, where I'll be discussing a few more regions and examples of what they produce. Please check out the links in the bio for where to purchase sample packs and, of course, fried chicken. Stay safe, everybody, and remember, there's no such thing as bad whiskey. Slange.